It's the Ross Tucker Football Podcast.
Oh, yeah, it is. But it's not just any Ross Tucker Football Podcast. It is a teaching tutorial Thursday presented by DraftKings. That means our civilian GOAT, Greg Cosell, is in the house, and it's NFC South Day as we continue our critically acclaimed series in which we are breaking down division by division, previewing the season. It's been so fun to see how many different outlets are picking up some of the things that Greg has said, how well some of his clips have done on social media, whether that's at Ross Tucker NFL or at Ross Tucker Pod. Heck, the YouTube numbers have been great. YouTube.com/Ross Tucker NFL. It's our last new episode of the week, which means we will give out some winners a little bit later in the show. Very much looking forward to that. But I don't like to make Greg wait. I don't like to wait for anything, which is why I'm loving Max right now. I really like the whole world's on demand now. Max has the best entertainment for whatever mood I'm in, my wife's in, our daughters are in. You know, for me, it's primarily comedies like Curb Your Enthusiasm. For my kids, it's more like Max original Gremlins, Secrets of the Mogwai. For my wife, I don't even know what half the stuff is that she watches on Max, but she likes it. Do not wait to pick the best of streaming entertainment. Max, with something for every mood, anybody in our family's in, anytime. It's always a win. Plans start as little as $9.99 a month. Max, the one to watch. Subscription required. Visit max.com. It's Big Show time.
The Big Show.
All right, Greg, we will finish it up next week with the NFC West. Today, though, we're diving in to the NFC South. Before we get to the NFC South, though, there was a transaction yesterday in the NFL, decent money, as the Patriots give a contract extension to Devontae Parker. I guess my initial reaction was, that's interesting with them being rumored to have DeAndre Hopkins. Evidently, it's not really related, doesn't preclude them. If anything, I think maybe it opens up some cap space.
Yeah, and I don't think that they're out of the DeAndre Hopkins sweepstakes at all. I mean, Parker is a really intriguing player. I remember when he came out of college, he was your classic boundary X, Ross, meaning that he's the single receiver to the short side of the field. He's big, he's athletic, he can high point the ball, he runs well. You know, he's had some really, really good moments in this league. He had some really good stretches when he was with the Dolphins. He's had his moments with the Patriots. Health has been an issue for him. He hasn't been able to stay on the field. I don't know if he's truly played a full season. I don't have his statistics right in front of me, but he's a very talented player. And we know that New England needs receivers, and he fits. He really fits any offense because every offense in this league, and I remember having some great conversations at the Combine with some coaches talking about the importance of a boundary X receiver in your offense, and the fact that that player needs to win one-on-one, and Parker can do that. So the key is really health for him.
Greg, let's dive into the NFC South, and we'll start with a team I think is really interesting in the Atlanta Falcons. You know, they've won 7 games each of the last 2 years, despite the fact that nobody really expected them to win 7 games each of the last 2 years. They've kind of reinvested, it feels like, Greg, in the run game. You know, they get Bergeron in the second round, who's known as a aggressive run blocker. He'll play left guard for them. They also drafted Bijan Robinson in the first round, very high for a running back these days. And it looks like they're going with Desmond Ridder as their quarterback. Interesting to see Arthur Smith kind of going against what other people – I mean, he is believing in the run game.
No question. I mean, they didn't draft Bijan Robinson, not to give him the ball a meaningful amount. He's actually a very, very good receiver as well. But obviously, he will be their feature back. The offense will be built that way. They've got a young quarterback in Ritter who improved incrementally in each of his 4 starts a year ago. But Ritter, at this point in his career, is certainly a quarterback that needs the run game. In fact, when I evaluated Ritter coming out of Cincinnati, in my transition, I said that he would be best served going to an offense where the foundation was the run game and the play action pass game with him under center, meaning the conventional play action pass game, not where he's in the gun, but where he's under center would be the best situation for him to be in early in his career as he grows and develops. And that's exactly what you're going to see here. Now, to me, a really, really important player in this offense, and he needs health and he needs to play, is Kyle Pitts. Because Kyle Pitts is really a high-level talent. And with the offense being kind of in flux the last 2 years and Pitts getting injured, you really haven't seen the talent come out consistently yet. But it's there. And I love that you mentioned Bergeron. I loved his tape at Syracuse. I know most people saw him as a guard because of the way in which he played. He's not necessarily a rangy guy to play left tackle. But he's physical, he's competitive, and my guess is he'll be starting at left guard for them.
Greg, I don't think we talk enough. Ritter can run.
Yeah,
I'm a little surprised. Factor. I mean, I don't remember how many design runs they had for him last year, but he can run, and that's a real threat and a real element to his game that maybe we don't talk about enough.
No, I think they're going to have a very interesting mix of Ritter being under center with Robinson being an I-back and Ritter in the gun with the zone read and design quarterback run game element as part of that. So I think it's going to be a very interesting mix. That'll be something to watch as the season gets underway. But you're right, Ritter can run.
On the defensive side of the ball, they got a new DC in Ryan Nielsen.
Coming from New Orleans.
A lot of his Saints buddies with him. All of a sudden, though, you look at their front 7, and it's Grady Jarrett, Onyemata, Calais Campbell. I mean, they've got some guys now up front that can bang.
Yeah, and again, Ryan Nielsen, I'm sure he's a young guy doing this for the first time, but he came from the Dennis Allen School, which means you're going to see some really interesting fronts, some real interesting pressure concepts. I'm curious to see how much man they play. We know A.J. Terrell can play man. Jeff Okudah was thought to be a guy that when he was drafted could line up and play man, had his moments in Detroit, but also got beat quite a bit. So we'll see if he can sort of become a quality man-to-man corner, because I think that's what they're going to ask their corners to do. They obviously signed Jesse Bates, a really solid back-end safety. And then they've got, a couple of young players at linebacker. I think this Troy Anderson kid, who's a big kid, small school guy, but athletic, big, maybe 6'3", 240, 245. I think he has a chance to be a really good player.
Really enjoyed watching his tape leading into the FCS championship game a couple years ago. Former quarterback, former running back.
Yep.
Let's move on to the Carolina Panthers, Greg. Another really interesting team. You don't often, Greg, see a team when they draft a quarterback #1 overall pick bring in as many veteran skill guys as they did. A lot of times they'll have young skill guys, but they bring in Miles Sanders to play running back, Hayden Hurst at tight end, Thielen and DJ Chark at receiver. They really are kind of going out of their way to make sure that Young has a veteran group around him. What do you think of that?
I actually think they have a pretty good skill position group overall. You don't think of Carolina that way, but I mean, you look at what they've done. I mean, Thielen, Chark, Terrace Marshall is a young player who I think should be trending upward. I love Jonathan Mingo coming out of college, Ole Miss. So, he was their second round pick. Loved his tape. Think he can be a really good pro receiver. You mentioned Sanders. They still have Chuba Hubbard. I mean, they've got guys. This is a really good skill position group. And we know Bryce Young's going to be the week 1 starter. And I would expect him to play pretty well. I really would. The key, of course, is the O-line. You're dealing with a shorter quarterback. So the key is going to be the interior 3, because as you know, Ross, the interior 3 control the depth of the pocket. You can't have the the pocket squeezed on Bryce Young. He needs to. It's almost the Drew Brees situation when Sean Payton was there. He needs space so he can step into throws because you don't want him to feel that he constantly has to move and leave the pocket.
Greg, you don't always see this from a team with the number 1 overall pick. It's very clear, and maybe it's because of the division they're in. It seems pretty clear to me, Greg, the Carolina Panthers think they can win and win now with Bryce Young as a rookie.
I would agree with that. 100%. I mean, and again, it's all OTAs and minicamp, but all we did was hear good things about Bryce Young. It didn't take him long to become number 1 on their depth chart. And then defense becomes the key factor here. They brought in Evero, who's a little bit of another Vic Fangio type coordinator. They've got some pretty good players on defense. I'm real curious to see how all this plays out. J.C. Horn will be back. He's a really solid corner. Jeremy Chin is a really good player, kind of a multi-dimensional sort of safety linebacker. There's one player on their defense who every time I watched Carolina on defense, and I probably did see 10, 11 games last year of their defense, who always showed up to me. And he's a totally unknown player, probably to most, and that's Frankie Louvu. This guy always showed up on tape. He's a really intriguing player, good pass rusher, good athlete, can do a lot of things for you.
Love it. You know what does a lot of things for me? Labatt Blue Light. Absolutely delicious. If you want to take things to the next level this weekend, and believe you me, I will be doing that. Drink some Labatt Blue Lights with your friends, your family, me, whoever. Live life to the power of we. Always enjoy responsibly. Beer, Labatt USA, Buffalo, New York. All right, Greg, let's keep it rolling in the NFC South, and let's get to the New Orleans Saints. Really curious to hear your thoughts on the New Orleans Saints. They think they're getting Michael Thomas back at receiver, but the biggest change here, obviously, is they went out and they got Derek Carr to play quarterback for them.
Yeah. And, it's funny. Obviously, that's the most visible and the biggest change in the minds of most. I would almost argue that Michael Thomas is just as big because Michael Thomas has not been healthy, is it 2 or 3 years now, Ross? But when he was healthy, he's a really good receiver, and he played a lot at Boundary X. And I remember watching them when he was there and the way they would have him at the Boundary X, again, the single receiver to the short side of the field. And on that same side, offset in the backfield, they would have Alvin Kamara. And that was really, really difficult for defenses to play because Kamara is one of the best, if not the best, receiving back in the league. And not only would he be offset in the backfield to the same side of Thomas, there'd be times they'd go empty and put him split out with Thomas. That was really, really difficult to defend. And, Chris Olave's coming off a really strong rookie season. So this is a pretty good skill position group. I thought the signing of Jamal Williams was interesting because, people might not be aware. Jamal Williams had about 250, 260 carries a year ago and rushed for over 1,000 yards. And he's a very physical, competitive, between the tackles runner. I think that was a really good signing for them to maybe keep Kamara from being the guy because I don't know if Kamara I don't think he's a 250 carry back. I don't think he's that guy. So this is a pretty good offense with a pretty good O-line as well. This is going to be one of the most intriguing offenses to watch as the season gets underway.
Greg, I don't really know what happened with Derek Carr last year. I guess I kind of thought Josh McDaniels' offense, Waller, Renfro, Devontae Adams, I thought it would go really well. It didn't.
So did I. I don't really know either what happened. I mean, you'd have to be there to know that. Obviously, there was a disconnect between Carr and Josh McDaniels. He ended up getting benched, which was very strange. And look, Carr has had great moments in this league. He's a professional quarterback. I think there's a lot of people who believe that something might be missing. I've always felt he was a little bit risk averse, but that doesn't make him a bad quarterback. I always felt that he didn't really push the ball down the field unless it was really clean. Some might view that as a negative. Some might say, hey, that's okay. He's not going to throw picks. But Derek Carr is a professional quarterback who you can line up and win with.
What about the Saints on defense, Greg? they lost some guys this offseason in free agency, but they still have some core guys back, including in the secondary with Lattimore. And now they have Tyrann Mathieu, of course, linebacker Demario Davis, a lot of the same guys.
Yeah, I think if their defense is healthy, this is a really, really good secondary. And that allows Dennis Allen to play a lot of man and to do a lot of things with his fronts and pressure schemes. I think Demario Davis is one of the top 3-4 linebackers in this league, never comes off the field. He's used a ton in their blitz packages. I remember Dennis Allen telling me that Davis is the reason they can do a lot of things that they want to do with their pressure schemes because he's so good at that. He's a really, really good player. So, I think that, their secondary allows them to do a lot of things, assuming health, because, obviously Lattimore missed a lot of time last year. Although I thought the rookie Alante Taylor from Tennessee a year ago played really, really well on the outside. And right now he's not even thought of to be a starter, but he could end up. We'll see how it plays out. I imagine there'll be a little bit of a battle between Taylor and Paulson Adebo opposite Lattimore.
Last but not least, Greg, we've got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And they do feel like a team in transition, but it's weird because you look at them and they still have Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Russell Gage at receiver.
Yep.
They're moving Tristan Wirfs over to left tackle, but they still have a veteran group with, Filer and Ryan Jensen. Hainsey's still there. They drafted Cody Mauch. They've got Rashad White still there. The big change, obviously, is at quarterback, where it sounds like it's Baker Mayfield competing with Kyle Trask. John Wolford's still there as well. Do you think that you still have faith that Baker Mayfield can be a winning quarterback in this league long-term, Greg?
I think that's a hard question to answer. I think he has traits to be a solid quarterback. I think they're very much of an unknown for this reason. They've got a new coordinator, okay? And I don't know enough about him, just being honest, to know what ultimately he's going to do. Now, he came from Seattle, where he'd been for a number of years. I don't know if he's going to take in a sense, the Pete Carroll approach, or if he believes that, hey, now I'm free and I'm going to really become a spread guy. I'm going to, the quarterback's going to be the guy. I don't know any of that. I don't think we know that yet. Clearly, they have quality receivers. I think the O-line should be solid. I like Rashad White a lot coming out of Arizona State. I think he has what it takes to be, I don't want to say a foundation back, but a number one back. And there's a difference there. So the key is Baker. I think with Baker, you have to really define things for him. He's a pocket quarterback. Again, people get into that debate. How many 6-foot pocket quarterbacks really play well in this league without the ability to make truly second reaction improvisational plays? And while Baker's not a statue, he's a pocket quarterback. So you really have to design the offense for that, to make sure that he's clean in the pocket. I imagine play action would be a significant part of that. You want to define the reads and the throws for him. I'm really curious to see what Dave Canales does, because I just don't know.
And then on the defensive side of the ball, still a lot of guys over there from the Super Bowl team. Vita Vea, Devin White, Levante David, Shaq Barrett. I'm sure those guys don't want to hear that they're rebuilding.
No. And, they've had a lot of injuries in the secondary, and I think that's been critical because we know that Todd Bowles is a high percentage blitz guy. And with Dean, being hurt a bit, Davis being hurt a bit, I really like the signing of Ryan Neal from Seattle to play safety with Winfield, because I thought Neal played really, really well in place of Jamal Adams in Seattle. I actually thought he was a better player than Jamal Adams in Seattle, but he'll start with Winfield at safety. As you said, they've got good players. I'm waiting for Joe Tryon to really bust out. I think he's got a lot of ability, and now he'll be one of the guys on the outside that'll play an awful lot. So this defense has a chance to be really good, and I'm sure that's what they're counting on, because I think they're going to have to work through some growing pains on offense, because with a new offense and a new quarterback, Ross, as you know, having played in this league, you just don't know until the games start.
Check him out on social media. He is a good friend. He is the best at what he does, at Greg Cosell. Looking forward to wrapping this up with the NFC West next week, Greg. Thank you.
Thanks, Ross.
And thank you to West Shore Home. Man, I am such a fan of them for 3 specific reasons. Number one, the new shower and the new bathtub upstairs look amazing. You guys can see it for yourself. Just go to westshorehome.com/Ross. We had the old 90s fiberglass all-in-one deal. It's think about how much time you spend in your bathroom. Like, you might as well make it look nice and be happy when you're in there and feel better about it. Life's too short. That's my philosophy. Anyway, they did the whole thing in a day. So you don't have to take several days off of work or whatever to make sure somebody's home for this remodeling. It's one day. One day. Right now, you can get free installation on a new shower or bath replacement with West Shore Home when you go to westshorehome.com/Ross. I actually know some of these guys. It's a local business, started locally, but now they're everywhere, everywhere. You'll qualify for free installation when you get a free estimate. And yes, you can still get into that best ball draft for July against me and Joe Dolan. Just go to westshorehome.com/Ross today to get that free estimate.
Tuck's Takes.
All right, Ross, we'll start with what you talked about earlier. Wide receiver Devontae Parker gets a 3-year, $33 million contract extension with the Patriots.
I don't really know what to make of that, Jack. I think he got $14 million in guarantees. I think maybe he just wanted to lock in some more money, especially before the Patriots might get DeAndre Hopkins, which I still think there's a decent chance that they do, because I think Belichick knows it would not be real good for him to have a losing season and to finish last in the AFC East, and feels like they need to be competitive. I've seen some stats where Parker doesn't get a whole lot of separation. It's not really his game. He's more of a contested catch, high point guy.
The NFLPA named Lloyd Howes their new executive director.
I might try over the next few weeks to get JC Tretter, the president of the NFLPA, on the show. Lloyd Howell was the CFO of Booz Allen Hamilton, huge company. So obviously the players were impressed by that. I guess I'm curious. I would love to talk to JC about why secrecy was so important, because nobody even heard the name until he got hired yesterday. I mean, it's probably the biggest secret I can remember having been kept in the NFL in a long time.
More players, including Colts quarterback Isaiah Rodgers, are expected to be suspended for the entire season very soon, per Adam Schefter.
Right. This feels like something they'll announce today or tomorrow before the 4th of July holiday week, because it's not good news. Something's wrong if we get to the point where double-digit players are missing the season because of gambling. Like that, somebody did not do a good enough job making sure the players knew the rules to have double-digit guys like this. You don't have double-digit guys being suspended for anything.
Training camp is just around the corner. Dates for all 32 teams when they will return have been announced.
Such a bad feeling. It's still, Jack, 15 years later, puts a pit in my stomach, man. You're trying to enjoy your last week or so, a couple weeks of freedom, and then that date is just hanging over you, bro. It is bad. Let's do something good. Let's give out some winners.
I want winners. I want people that want to win.
I want people like the Spread the Word winner, Ed Kenshock. Ed gave us a Facebook review. I love that. It's Ross Tucker Pod on Facebook. You can give us reviews. Ed, let me know what press pass you would prefer. I'll sign it, send it to you with your address. Sponsor confirmation email, what James D. D-I-E-E. I don't know if it's Die. I don't know how to say it, James. But he took advantage of the code, the Game Time code, to get awesome concert tickets. Love it, James. Huge fan of Game Time. Same thing, man. Let me know what press pass you want. And then the YouTube shout out goes to Bill Tussle. YouTube.com/Ross Tucker NFL. You can watch full episodes of any of our shows anytime. People love it. Or it's a great place to just see the highlight clips of each show. Alternatively, you can go to @Ross Tucker Pod on social media, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, or @Ross Tucker NFL on TikTok if you want to make sure you're getting the best highlight clips of any of these shows. You know what to do the rest of the weekend. Check out the college draft or even money, fantasy feast. We will have a brand new episode on Monday. So look for that. And then we'll still have episodes all week next week. Even if we're on vacation, even if you're traveling, you still get your new episode. That's our promise. I think we're done here.
Thanks for listening to the Ross Tucker Football Podcast. Make sure to also subscribe to the Fantasy Feast, Even Money, Business of Sports, and College Draft. All available at Apple Podcasts, rosstucker.com, or wherever podcasts can be found.
You probably have to get somebody a gift for something soon, right? I don't know, birthday, anniversary. MyFrontPageStory.com is where it's at. Then you got BackOfficeScheduler.com. Evergreen Economics, go-bengals.com, steakhousesports.com, humanheadnyc.com, Sporticulture, and Pizza Boy Brewing.